First, I would like to start with some words about the cultural, sort of the conspiracy background. Stephen already mentioned the vote auction net. We're going to talk quickly about it, or very briefly. But first, I would like to introduce a project which was done by etoy in 1996. It was called the Digital Hijack. And we hijacked about 1.5 million people from search engines during a 4-month period in 1996. Yeah. So the action was scripted like an internet movie. And as a result, the CIA was involved, and the Austrian Secret Service house searched my apartment 6 o'clock in the morning without a warrant. It was an unofficial collaboration. It was interesting to see how Austrian secret police collaborates on an informal level with the CIA. Actually, just yesterday I saw on CNN that the Austrian police and Secret Service was collaborating with the CIA in transporting secret prisoners through the country, and yeah. But while the agents were in my apartment, they were looking for hard disks and floppy disks, because from our etoy server, a series of death threats against Chelsea Clinton, the daughter of the former president Bill Clinton, were sent off. So during this time, my apartment was full of drugs, and it was a very difficult situation. We finally resolved the situation by handing over false log files, manipulated log files to the Secret Service. But what was actually even worse than the CIA threat was that the University of Vienna censored us. They actually physically pulled the plug from the hijack server during the full action when it was really going. The reason was an email where there was an ASCII gun in the email. This image was enough to kill them off and censor us. The second action I don't have to talk about too much. It's a vote auction. So, as Stephen said, during the presidential election 2000, Al Gore versus George W. Bush, we ran an internet platform buying and selling votes from US citizens. And the slogan was bringing capitalism and democracy closer together. So it was a real media hype. We counted over 2,500 news features globally. And we were featured in a 30-minute CNN primetime show where they discussed the project, and they wanted to find out whether we were what we claimed to be Eastern European business perverts, business people, or whether we were actually artists. The US government spent millions of dollars because immediately the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, and Janet Reno, the federal attorney, and 13 state attorneys started to investigate the case. The problem was they didn't know who we were, and we didn't know who they are. That's the most difficult thing in these kind of situations. They're really spooks. I think that's also a terminology which is used for the CIA, for example. So I hand over to you.
Yeah. With this impressive background of Hans, we met at some point 2 years ago, more or less physically, after many exchanges before, and we started to wonder, to talk about Google. It was the most impressive online giant corporation even 2 years ago. Even that moment is growing constantly. And we were discussing why Google is so impressive, why Google is so effective. Because it's a very subtle project. For most of the people, Google, it's not a corporation, it's something that comes with a computer. You have the computer, you connect to the net, and you search through Google. It's something that it's even sold with your computer. Most of the people is not conscious that this is the biggest online corporation ever. Why it was so effective and so quick growing and so pervasive? No doubt Google is the only search engine used by the majority of users. we started to talk about, and I started to analyze its brand. For me, Google has a very peculiar characteristic, its interface. For me, it's like porcelain. It's perfect. It's shiny. It's funny. It's even like the cup you use during the breakfast. So you feel comfortable with this kind of interface. But you can't see what's behind, what's inside this porcelain interface. And there's another very important characteristic, that it's simple, essential, as a porcelain object could be. And this simpleness and this being essential is reflected in every Google service and aspect. When they make new services like, Google News, Gmail, Google Images, Google Maps, they are always funny. People like them from the beginning, even not considering that they establish a monopoly on that services in the very moment they make the service public, because of the incredible mass of users of Google itself. And there's another very important policy of Google. We are not talking about something like Microsoft at all. Google is always working, and working very well. So it's funny, it's really easy to use, you feel comfortable, and it works. Everything is light, quick, speedy, I could say tasty, and resource rich. But again, it's an enormous block that you cannot enter. It's very well protected. You will see how during the next minutes. So we thought about it as, I tried to define it as the funny dictator. A dictator that is really have the monopoly on searches and on many services on internet, but it's funny. So you don't have the instinct feeling of fighting against him. But the greatest enemy of such a giant, it's the parasite. The parasite can suck small amounts of energy, in our case of money. And sucking this money would affect this self-referentialism of Google. That is another very specific characteristic. Everything in Google refers back to Google. And we wanted basically to find a way of emptying this artificial mountain of data and its inner risk of digital totalitarianism.
Yeah, so we started a project, and it's called Google Gwei. The name is Gwei, Gwei. Google will eat itself. How does it work? By having a series of over 50 hidden websites carrying little Google text advertisements, we earn money with each click our robot generates. We then transfer the money we receive from Google to our Swiss bank account, where we automatically buy Google shares. So by using this auto-cannibalistic model, Google eats itself, but in the end, we own it. It's also a paradox situation, because by using Google AdSense advertisement, the program, we also contribute, in micro terms, to their growth of profit and to the rise of the share value. But it's not so important. But after the buying process, after we bought the shares, we distribute the shares to the public through a company called GTTP Limited, Google to the People Limited. Now, it will take us over 200 years to take over Google, we calculated. So to explain or clarify the piece a little bit more in detail, because there is a technical side to it and a business side to it, we use the core business technology of Google. That's their AdSense program. Next to the AdWords program, the AdSense program is the main revenue generator of Google. They earn billions of dollars per year with these little advertisements. So with the AdSense program, Google places text advertisements on millions of websites. Any website can subscribe to this service and earn a little amounts of money or big amounts of money, depending on how many times their users click on the advertisements. So, as I said, we have about 50 such advertisement websites. So each time an advertisement on our website is being clicked, a micropayment between 10 cents to $1 is transferred from Google to us. And then we wait, and then we buy the next share. That's the whole trick. So now we're going to talk about some things that happened during this 2-year. I mean, the project is started in 2005, early 2005, so it's almost 2 years. It's almost 2 years, and it's still running. So we have now about 190 shares, which are valued at about $90,000. That's approximately the thing. So you're going to talk about some stuff.
Yeah, guess what? It worked. We went during this year and during this couple of years, we went into diverse stages also because of what happened. This was the very first fake website we did. You can see the Google AdSense on the left. We were simply putting in a sort of self-referential style, putting in news about global web marketing and e-business information as a new magazine. To be into the AdSense program, you have to submit your website to Google, and they will say yes or no, we don't want you. They said yes, so everything started. But quite quickly, we start to see strange signals from the outside. Probably the first one, this is how basically it works. This is, for us, an historical moment, the first click to our website that generated
54 or what?
Yeah, 54 cents. The first one was an explicit invitation to Understanding Google, a conference theoretically held at the Ritz-Carlton at Half Moon Bay, California. The head of this conference, Seth Goldstein, invited us and said, why, guys, don't you come and explain us your techniques? Of course, we never went there. We were in doubt for many reasons. One, that we should have been in the belly of the beast. Second, that we weren't really convinced that it was a real conference. There was only a famous speaker, John Battelle, that is one of the most acknowledged Google experts. But the website was so cheap for such a conference, and it was pretending to be a technical conference about Google with work groups inside. But we have to frame also the moment. We are in the in the moment where the click fraud argument was really picked up by journalists and magazines. And we had long articles in Wired magazine, in Business Week, talking about how this Google bubble was at risk because of click fraud. And we felt the feeling of being really a part, one of the multiple voices in this click fraud economy. So we were not really surprised when Eric Orchard, chief technology correspondent of Reuters from San Francisco, asked us about an interview. We said, yeah, finally, the big media has discovered Google with it itself and its own techniques and politics. It's not just a question of sweet shop in China clicking furiously on AdSense, changing their IP. There's also other stuff to talk about. Here's Eric Orchard. Obviously, he didn't send a photo asking for the interview, but I found it just on Flickr. You can find it also, of course. This is the mail. Can someone contact me? I have some questions about your project. We have a public email that is magazine@gway.org for filtering all the messages that arrive us because of Google with it itself. And to prove that he was serious, he said, yeah, you can read some of my latest stories on the Reuters website. What happened was that we said, yes, okay, cool, let's start, shoot. Send us your question, we are ready. But he simply never replied. A very logical consequence, or illogical consequence, was that after a few days, he is asking, 2 of our decoy accounts with Google were suddenly terminated. We thought about the usual policy of professional journalists, that is to ask you and to ask also the counterpart. But it was unclear how it worked, even if probably he asked Google, and Google researched and shut down these 2 decoy accounts.
Yep, just changing. Okay, so
probably we have to explain what decoy accounts.
Yeah, the decoy. We put out some decoy accounts because we wanted to protect our real websites where the actual money making is going on. So what you can do, this is also kind of a defense tactic, which is also, I think, used with the secret services, etc. That you put out something which they can find, and it's in English it's called a decoy, and then they will find it and they will be satisfied with the result that they terminated this, but in the back the whole operation is still running. So that's a decoy account. Another thing which happened was that a Wired magazine, the print edition, they contacted us for an interview and a big feature in the art section, and we prepared everything. We did the interview, we prepared the graphics. Everything was set. It took about 1.5 months, and they prepare they have 3 or 4 months before printing. They have already the deadline, so it's already crazy there. And the problem was that in the last moment, the article got cancelled, and they didn't tell us any reason. So I tried to find out why, but they wouldn't answer. They just said that they had orders from the top. That was a top-down decision. They couldn't do anything. Now, we quickly had a look at Wired magazine because we knew that they changed hands. So the mother company of Wired magazine is Condé Nast. And Condé Nast is one of the big media companies, publishing. It's a publisher, actually. Now, the publishers have very close relationship with advertisers and media company, and Google is such a media company. So we'll never find out, but whatever it means, it could be related. Another thing which was really how do you say, it was strange. It was that we received a lot of strange fake account and we couldn't tell from who this is. We received many emails from strange people with strange email addresses with very strange content, and this became a real problem in the user communication. It started to go out of control. As I mentioned before, it's very hard to judge what a person's intention is if you only have virtual contact via email or via Skype. And if the information gets just overwhelming and you are in a process of real-time publication and user communication press work, you are between the fronts and you can't tell who is who and if it's corporate spies or lawyers or just users who are interested and strange. You don't know. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to read you quickly one of these kind of communications which happened via Skype with one of the collaborators of the project, Paolo Girio. It was a chat history with a guy called Johannes Beuys.
Let me just add, for those of you who use Skype, sometimes you get requests of chatting with another person, you have to agree or not. Paolo is the one of us that is for most of the time with the Skype on, so it's the person that has received the greatest amount of requests via Skype about Google with itself. He was contacted by his person. This photograph is quite threatening for me. He was joking, saying, yeah, it really seems like Saddam Hussein. I said, Paolo, calm down. He's in jail. He's well guarded. We are not at this point. And the name, he also seems real. We'll never know again. But this is a conversation. Hans will refer the Johannes Beuys words, and I will play as Paolo Cirio.
So he goes like, "Hi.
Hi, dear.
You're the one who coded the Google will eat itself thing?
Yes, right.
Could get you into big trouble.
Why?
Who are you?
Who are
Oh, that's
you?
It's not only against the AdSense TOS, but against the law. It's called fraud."
Yeah, okay. See,
That's mine.
Oh, sorry.
http wikipedia.org/clickfraud.
Yes, I know about this argument, but you don't know what to do, Google, about the law. Do you know what kind of personal information they collect with the AdSense program? So many things are against the law. Anyway, have you something important to tell me?
No, I just wanted to hear if you know what you're doing. Have fun, smiley.
Yes, I know, but don't forget that I'm an artist, not a thief. It's a bit different.
Fraud is fraud, no matter what, if you think it's art or not.
Now, exactly depend what you are doing with fraud. If you use to steal for personal use or for communicating something. So many art was illegal and then become history for everybody.
I'm pretty sure the judge won't think so.
Oh, well, depend who pays the judge. In some, nothing of legal is really legal. Anyway, something it's a must for political activists, and we take the risk.
Okay, your choice. Just wanted to let you know of the risk. That's it.
He quieted, and yeah. This is a kind of scary stuff we got. Well, as Stephen very kindly said, I'm the editor-in-chief of Neural, and Neural magazine is also a Neural website. It is quite popular. The Neural website got 150,000 unique users a month. I took an AdSense account before starting GWay. And I said from the beginning to Hans, I want to take the two things separate. Neural is one thing, Google with itself is another one. I don't want to test it on neural or mix the two stuff. So don't giving excuses to Google to terminate my account, not only for money reason, but also for having a platform always working. Guess what? Google will terminate my account in Neura, even if I can say no fraudulent click was made. When this happened? Another conference. Some friends in Italy invited us on the coast of Tuscany for a very small festival dedicated to design and new media called Struttura. And they have a good idea. Why don't we put all the fighters in the same ring? Why don't invite Google with itself guys and the Google Italy guys to let them chat together happily? Google Italy simply said, it is not in our public relation plans, and said, we will not come. 3 days before the conference, the neural.it account was terminated. I, as you might guess, tried to ask again why and when, but the Google policy is just terminate. You can ask any more times you want, but the reply usually is always the same. You made fraudulent clicks, you'll be terminated. I want to tell just another very brief thing about this concept of fraudulent click. As Hans was telling before, we had this engines that software engine programmed by Paolo Chigero that was able to make invisible clicks on the Google with itself website. So basically, what we were doing was a simulation of a natural environment, because we really cared of respecting the ratio of clicks and page views. So how many people clicks as average on after visiting a page. So we were simulating this kind of stuff. We were sort of, for us it was a sort of science experiment. It was an environment that we have to simulate again. And it's very difficult to say for sure that you made a fraudulent click. How can you say that? There's a surveillance camera in your room that is seeing when you push your right or left finger on the mouse saying, hey, you have made a fraudulent click, beware. It's simply impossible. It's simple electronic signals traveling from your computer to the Google servers and transforming into very small amount of money. And this kind of, for us, natural environment was by us simulated.
But still, we received a cease and desist letter from Google.
We got mail.
We got mail from Google Hamburg. Quote, we write you in the name of Google Incorporated, 1600 Amphitheatre Parkway, Mountain View, California. Google was informed about your project, GWAI, Google Delete itself. On your website there is the following information. Quote, now we have set up a vast amount of such AdSense accounts for our hidden websites. Each time someone visits a website within our network of sites, he/she triggers a series of robots. For each click, we receive a micropayment from Google. End quote. We're still in the mail. We mean that the text can only be understood that you open up or have other people open up AdSense account with Google. It is obviously the intention that you or others click on the AdSense pages and receive payments for this. For doing this, you also state that you're using robots. We may inform you that this is against Google AdSense policy. It is strictly forbidden to use automatic tools to generate clicks. This policy is not only to protect Google, but to protect the advertisers. They can experience direct losses by your activities. Keyword, Google sorry, start again. Keyword, Gwai eats advertisers. They really wrote that. We don't have to mention the criminal legal implications this project might have for you. We are very well aware that this is an art project. But this, we have to mention, the legal consequences this activity might have for you. Be assured that Google will use all legal means to prosecute such fraud. Usually this does not imply the termination of your does not only imply the termination of your AdSense account, but can also mean that you have to pay back your earned money and that we press charges. So you have to pay a reimbursement for the damages you caused. With kindest regards, Dr. Arndt Haller, Legal Department. End of quote.
Just a note to say that even the legal department of Google, it's coherent with their style. They didn't simply send an official and boring lawyer email saying, this is the law and so on. They say, yeah, okay, we know it's an art project, but please stop it now. It's, again, in their perfect porcelain kind of concept.
Should we end it here?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks.